No matter how good a game looks or sounds, no matter how much you might be hyped up for it, it is always possible that it could end up getting canceled. This happens time and time again in the video game industry, but none of them have broken our hearts like the games you're about to see. So hey, I'm Nervous Nick for the Nose Top 10 Games You'll Never Get to Play.
Number 10.
There is no such thing as a game in the Prey series that hasn't had a convoluted development process. I mean, yeah, we've only had 2 Prey games come out, but in between those releases, we lost what would have been a true sequel to the original. Instead of being a straight horror game, Prey 2 would have been a bounty hunting adventure in a world inhabited by all kinds of aliens. But what really got me interested wasn't the freedom to climb around the environment or all the nifty gadgets you got. Take a look at this interaction and tell me that this isn't an impressive little touch.
The location is yours for 2,000 credits. Your reputation precedes you, baby.
So if you've ever wanted to basically be Rocket Raccoon or Boba Fett in a stunningly realized open world with tons of unique player choices to make, too bad. Prey 2's never coming out. You and I will never play it.
Number 9.
Before we had Mario Maker, we almost had Mega Man Maker. Mega Man Universe, whatever. What this Claymation debut trailer tells us, though, is that we would have replayed Mega Man 2, one of the greatest platformers ever made, but with the ability to tweak levels, make entirely new ones out of the classic Mega Man assets, and then share them online. But get this, you also were going to be able to customize Mega Man himself by swapping out his parts to change how he looks and plays. You could play as Bad Box Art Mega Man, Arthur from Ghosts and Goblins, or even Ryu from Street Fighter. Like some unfortunate others on this list, Mega Man Universe died after some bad behind-the-scenes politics. In this case, Keiji Inafune, co-creator of Mega Man, wound up leaving Capcom entirely. It was a poor move that gave Mega Man a sucky reputation for nearly a decade afterward, but here in the post-Mario Maker world, we can see how nifty games like that can be. And it's that soft spot for a new build-your-own platformer that makes us really wish Mega Man Universe had come to be.
Number 8.
E3 2014, Microsoft's press conference. After a solid showing for the past hour and 20 minutes, they needed an absolute banger to wrap it all up with. That's when Microsoft closed out the show with the second game of that conference that never saw the light of day. Rest in peace, Fable Legends. Scalebound. It may look like Platinum Games was trying to make an adaptation of How to Train Your Dragon that went off the deep end in a few places, but Scalebound was going to be an action RPG headed by Hideki Kamiya, the dude behind Devil May Cry and Bayonetta. I can't find a single thing to dislike about a game where you and your friends ride giant dragons and kill even gianter monsters together, but I don't know, there's something about this that doesn't quite feel like a Platinum or Kamiya game, and there it is! I'm sold! Except, I can't be sold on it, because I can't buy the game, because it died.
Number 7.
You know, first-person shooters aren't typically my thing, but I've got to be honest, I am frustrated by the lack of time splitters these days. In the 2000s, this series let us play as 1920s mobsters, Amazon women, ducks, and chimps with some of the most honest-to-God fun I've ever had in a shooter. I don't know what else you'd call running around the moon at high speeds punching the heads off of flaming zombies, but that's just one of the absurd things you could do in Time Splitters. Time Splitters 4 would have brought that level of insanity to the HD era, and my heart could hardly be emptier without it. There is some hope that one of the most fun FPS games could make a comeback, though. THQ Nordic, who resurrected Darksiders not too long ago, now has the rights to give us more Time Splitters. Get on it, THQ Nordic. You've been licensed for like 5 months now. Where's my Time Splitters?
Number 6.
Blizzard, the juggernaut company behind the Warcraft series, has their fair share of projects that died, but few were as intriguing as Titan. Titan would have been a first-person MMO where by day you worked a typical job. Something blue-collar, maybe. But by night, you carried out missions for your respective faction. Kind of like Clark Kent changing into Superman. It was every bit as ambitious as it sounds, but that was also one of the main reasons for Titan's downfall. In theory, it was awesome, but in practice, it became impossible to balance everything properly. And it's almost no wonder, too. Supposedly, you would have been able to build complicated relationships with NPCs, start families, run your own businesses. I guess it's not that surprising that simulating all of life kind of dampened the fun of escaping life. The good news, though, Titan was repurposed and transformed into a fun little game you might have heard of, called Overwatch. But still, there's some part of me, and a lot of us out here, that will always wonder what might have been.
Number 5.
While we're talking about Blizzard, in a million years, when whatever intelligent life forms dig up the fossilized remains of our society, even they will probably see just how important StarCraft is to PC gaming. But once upon a time, the RTS series was going to bring us directly onto the battlefield with StarCraft Ghost. Ghost would have been a stealth-heavy third-person shooter featuring Nova Terra, the acrobatic agent with psionic powers. It was even going to have multiplayer with all the deathmatch, King of the Hill, and personal favorite, capture the flag modes you could possibly want, but it was the invasion game mode that was by far the most interesting. 2 teams would have fought for control points, kind of like Battlefield, I guess, which would give them resources to expand that team's arsenal of vehicles and classes. So, not too very far off from the actual RTS games, only you are personally dishing out the death. But after being passed around from studio to studio for so many years, StarCraft Ghost faded away just like a ghost. It's fitting, I guess. But hey, at least the game's story lived on as a book series. And I don't know about you guys, but as a big-time gamer, small-time reader, I can definitely wait to read those.
Number 4.
It's about family, and that's what's so powerful about it.
Yeah. You look at all this family happening right now. Just bits of family flying all over the place. I think that guy had a family, that guy probably had a family, and that guy probably had a family too. Oh, I know this guy definitely had a family. To be sure, Star Wars 1313 was a darker take on the Star Wars mythos, but that was also kind of its big hook. We never got a ton of gameplay to go off of, but it looked kind of like an Uncharted game which would have taken us into the seedy underworld below Coruscant. 1313 would focus on cinematic gameplay, cover-based gunplay, and even climbing on stuff, but it also looked just as character-focused as the Uncharted games were. Like, who's this homicidal anti-hero guy and why does he love blowing up this dude so much? But you know, a better question might be, why do I like blowing up this dude so much?
It's about family.
Number 3.
And let's keep it Star Wars-y here, because more than any other game on this list, this one I think is the most painful for me. Back in middle school, I used to hop the fence to my next-door neighbor's place to play Star Wars Battlefront on his PS2 like every day. See, I wasn't really a big Star Wars fan at the time, but even I still loved the feeling of being in the middle of this gigantic all-out war. No other game had the scale that Battlefront did, which just makes the Battlefront 3 situation all the more depressing. Thanks to the added power of the Xbox 360 and PS3, Battlefront 3 was going to do something I had long dreamed that the series would do, which was let us go from a planet's surface all the way into orbit, all in one epic map. Can you imagine how nuts Capture the Flag games could have been? Sadly, Free Radical Design lost the rights to develop Star Wars games before it could be released, and apparently they never did acquire them again. And then Free Radical also died, there is also that. Here's where the depression really hits, though. Battlefront 3 was basically done. Completed. Done deal. It was almost ready to ship when it got canned and never officially saw the light of day. And then EA and DICE killed all interest in the Battlefront series forever. Thanks for that.
Number 2.
Hey, we're not done crying over Mega Man yet. Keiji Inafune's departure from Capcom I mentioned earlier also shut down another game. Back in the year 2000, Mega Man Legends 2 was a 3D adventure game that left fans on a cliffhanger ending. It ended with Mega Man stuck on this moon thing, for God's sake. 10 years later, Mega Man Legends 3 was announced for 3DS, giving hope to fans around the world for about 1 year before all hopes were dashed once again. But even though it never came out, Legends 3 was special for its uniquely public development process. And by that, I mean that Inafune and the team were going to lean really heavily on fan input. That sounds like the equivalent of letting the average YouTube comment section decide how your videos are made. Except for you guys are beautiful. But hey, Legends 3 was a game being made out of love for the fans in a way that few games can say the same about. Rest in peace, Legends 3.
It's number 1.
Why, Konami? Why? Why? In 2014, an unassuming demo called PT made its way onto the PS4 marketplace and captivated everybody who played it. As simple as a game about rounding a corner in a hallway over and over sounds, it still turned out to be one of the most horrifying games in years. And when you reached the end, you were rewarded with the promise of something even greater. A full game called Silent Hills, helmed by Hideo Kojima and Guillermo del Toro. Unfortunately, that demo was the most that anybody would ever play of Silent Hills. Extra unfortunately, nobody can play even that much of Silent Hills anymore, because Konami not only took PT off the online marketplace, they also pushed out an update that made the remaining few demos out there unplayable, because Konami gets off on taking nice things away from us, I guess. Hey, at least dedicated fans took the time to remake the thing from scratch in VR. Even though we'll never get to know what Silent Hills could have been like, we can at least take some solace knowing that Kojima and Del Toro's partnership lives on through Death Stranding. But that's still not going to stop us from wondering what if, from now until the end of time. For our secret number 11, Rockstar's obviously known for their incredible open-world games, but what about that one time they tried to make something more linear? That wasn't table tennis. Agent was going to be an espionage game set in the 70s at the height of the Cold War. It's been about a decade since it was announced, and we've barely heard a peep since, so at this point, I'm guessing we never will.